Have you ever had one of those moments where everything you thought you knew about yourself just shatters? Where the person you've been hiding your feelings from for years suddenly sees right through you, and there's nowhere left to run. That's what happened to me on a cold November evening when my best friend called me, his voice tight with pain, asking for help with something I never imagined I'd have to do. My name is Daniel. And this is the story of how one vulnerable moment changed everything between us, though. Rain was hammering against my apartment windows when my phone buzzed. Tyler's name flashed across the screen. I felt that familiar flutter in my chest, the one I'd been trying to ignore for the past 3 years. "Hey, what's up?" I answered, trying to sound casual. "Dan." His voice was strained, almost a whisper. "I need your help. I'm sorry to ask, but I don't know who else to call." I sat up straighter on my couch, my heart already racing. "Tyler, what's wrong? Are you okay?" I had an accident at the gym. Slipped during my workout and landed hard on my shoulder and wrist. The doctor says nothing's broken, but my right arm is completely useless right now, and my left isn't much better. They've got me in this shoulder brace, and Don, I can't even... He paused, and I could hear the embarrassment in his silence. "I can't manage basic things on my own." "I'm coming over," I said immediately, already grabbing my keys. 20 minutes. Wait, I haven't even told you what I need help with. Doesn't matter. "I'm coming." The drive to Tyler's place felt longer than usual. My mind raced with worst-case scenarios while my windshield wipers fought a losing battle against the November storm. Tyler Chen had been my best friend since our sophomore year of college, when we'd been randomly assigned as roommates. He was everything I wasn't confident: athletic, effortlessly charming. At 6'1" with broad shoulders and the kind of smile that made everyone in the room turn and look. He moved through the world like he belonged everywhere he went, and I'd been in love with him for almost as long as I'd known him, not that I'd ever told him. Not that I'd ever told anyone, really. Tyler was straighter, at least. He'd never given me any reason to think otherwise. He dated women casually, never anything too serious, and treated me like his best friend. His brother. The person he called when he needed help, which was exactly what I wanted to be for him. Even if my heart cracked a little every time he'd mentioned a date or showed me a picture of some girl from a dating app. When I arrived at his apartment, I found him sitting on his couch looking miserable and frustrated. His right arm was strapped tight against his chest in a complex-looking brace, and his left wrist was wrapped in an elastic bandage. His usually perfect dark hair was disheveled, and there was a vulnerability in his eyes I'd rarely seen. "You look like hell," I said gently, closing the door behind me. He managed a weak laugh. "Thanks. That's exactly what every injured person wants to hear." I sat down next to him, careful not to jostle his arm. "What did the doctor say?" "Severe shoulder strain, possibly a partial tear in the rotator cuff. Sprained wrist on the other side. I have to keep the shoulder immobilized for at least 2 weeks, maybe longer. And until the swelling goes down in my wrist." He gestured helplessly with his chin. "I can't do anything that requires 2 hands, or even 1 good hand." "Okay," I said, my mind already running through logistics. "So what do you need?" "I can pick up groceries. Help you with meals, Dan." He looked at me, and there was something in his expression, maybe, or shame. "I can't shower by myself." The words hung in the air between us. I felt heat rising to my face, but I kept my expression neutral. "I tried this morning," he continued, not meeting my eyes. "Took me 40 minutes just to get my shirt off, and when I tried to wash my hair, I nearly passed out from the pain in my shoulder. I can't reach anything. I can't." He swallowed hard. "I know this is asking a lot. I know it's weird. But my parents are in California, my sister's in grad school across the country, and everyone else I know would make this into some huge joke or post about it on social media, and I trust you." Those 3 words, "I trust youth," they hit me harder than they should have. "Of course I'll help," I said, trying to sound matter of fact, even as my pulse quickened. "When do you need to?" "Tonight? I haven't showered since yesterday morning, and I'm starting to feel disgusting." Finally looked at me, and there was such genuine gratitude in his dark brown eyes that I felt my resolve strengthen. "Gah," I said. "Let's do this." Getting Tyler undressed was more of a challenge than either of us anticipated. Every movement had to be slow and calculated to avoid aggravating his shoulder. I helped him ease out of his jacket first, then his t-shirt, which required carefully manipulating the fabric over his head, while he gritted his teeth against the pain. I tried not to stare. I really did. But Tyler had the kind of body that came from years of dedicated gym sessions and rock climbing defined shoulders. Strong chest, abs that looked like they'd been carved from marble. I'd seen him shirtless before, of course, at the beach or the gym. But this felt different, more intimate, more real. "Pants next," he said, his voice tight. I helped him with the button and zipper, trying to keep my breathing steady, trying to be clinical about this. We were just two friends, helping each other out. That's all this was. He managed to push his jeans and boxers down on his own, using his good hand and a lot of awkward maneuvering, and I very deliberately focused on his face while he did so. "All right," I said, my voice coming out slightly hoarse. "Bathroom?" He nodded, and I helped him walk the short distance to his bathroom. I'd already turned on the shower to let it warm up, and steam was beginning to fill the small space. "How do you want to do this?" I asked, trying to sound professional, like I help my best friend shower every day. "I can probably stand on my own if I lean against the wall," he said, "but I need help with pretty much everything else. Washing my hair, my back, places I can't reach." "Got it," I said, rolling up my sleeves. "I'm going to get wet anyway. I pulled off my own shirt, not wanting to soak it completely, and tried not to notice the way Tyler's eyes flickered over me before looking away. I'd never been as built as him, but I kept in decent shape. Still, standing there in my jeans with my shirt off, while he was completely naked, felt like crossing some invisible line we'd never approached before. Tyler stepped into the shower first, positioning himself so the water hit his uninjured side. I followed, trying not to think about how small his shower was, how close we'd have to be. The water was warm against my skin as I moved closer to him. Up close, I could see the bruising beginning to form along his shoulder, the tension in his jaw from the pain he was trying to hide. "Where do you want me to start?" I asked softly. "Hair, maybe?" I can barely lift my arm. I reached for his shampoo-some expensive tea, tree oil blend that always made him smell incredible, and poured some into my palm. Then, carefully, I reached up and began working it through his hair. Tyler closed his eyes, his head tilting back slightly under my touch. His hair was thick and soft, and I massaged the shampoo into his scalp with gentle circular motions, trying to ignore the intimacy of the gesture. The way his breath seemed to slow and deepen. "That feels amazing," he murmured, and I had to close my own eyes for a moment to steady myself. "It's doing my job," I said lightly, though my voice betrayed me with a slight tremor. "You're going above and beyond the call of best friend duty," he said, opening his eyes to look at me. We were so close now, close enough that I could see the water droplets clinging to his eyelashes, the vulnerability in his expression. "Thank you, Dan. Really, you'd do the same for me," I said, though I wondered if that was true. Could he stand here like this, hands in my hair, bodies inches apart, without it meaning something more? I rinsed the shampoo out carefully, using the handheld shower head to make sure I got all of it. Tyler kept his eyes closed, trusting me completely, and something in my chest tightened at that trust. "Conditioner?" I asked. He nodded, and I repeated the process, taking my time, letting my fingers work through any tangles. This close, I could see everything, the small scar above his left eyebrow from a childhood accident, the slight asymmetry of his lips, the way his throat moved when he swallowed. "Stop it," I told myself. "This is not the time." But when had my heart ever listened to logic? After rinsing the conditioner, I grabbed his body wash, something woodsy and clean, and a washcloth. "This might be awkward," I warned. "More awkward than this already is?" he said with a slight smile, trying to lighten the mood. I started with his shoulders, the uninjured one first, being careful around the brace on the other side. His skin was warm under my hands, smooth muscle beneath. I worked my way down his arms, his chest, trying to be thorough but professional. "You're really good at this," he said quietly. You ever think about becoming a nurse? Pretty sure nurses require more qualifications than willing to help a friend. I replied, moving the washcloth across his abdomen. His muscles tensed slightly under my touch, and I wondered if he was as aware of every point of contact as I was. Turn around, I said softly. I need to get your back. He shifted, bracing his good hand against the shower wall, and I was faced with the expanse of his back, broad shoulders tapering down to a narrow waist. I washed him carefully, methodically, trying not to think about how much I wanted this to mean something it couldn't. When I reached the small of his back, I hesitated. You okay to get the rest yourself? I can try, he said, his voice rougher than before. I handed him the washcloth and turned slightly to give him a semblance of privacy in the tiny shower space. Though it was almost pointless. I could feel the heat radiating from his body, could hear the catch in his breath when he moved wrong and aggravated his shoulder. Here, I said, turning back when I heard him struggling. Let me help. What happened next, I'll never forget. As I reached to take the washcloth from him, our hands touched, and the washcloth slipped from both our grips. We both bent to retrieve it at the same time, and suddenly we were face to face. Closer than we'd ever been, water streaming between us, and something in the air shifted. Tyler's eyes met mine. And I saw something there I'd never let myself hope to see: recognition, awareness, question. His gaze dropped to my lips for just a fraction of a second before returning to my eyes. Don, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I need to tell you something. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it over the sound of the shower. What? This injury? Maybe it's stupid, but it made me realize something. When I called you tonight, you didn't hesitate. You just came. And standing here now, letting you take care of me? He paused, seeming to gather courage. Nobody's ever made me feel the way you do. Safe. Seen. Like, I don't have to pretend to be anything other than exactly who I am. Tyler. I didn't know what to say. My mind was racing, trying to understand what he was telling me. I know this is probably the worst timing ever, he continued, a nervous laugh escaping him. I'm standing here naked and injured and completely vulnerable. And you're probably just trying to be a good friend, but Dan, I think I've been lying to myself for a long time. About what you mean to me. About what I feel when you're around. The water continued to cascade around us, but everything else seemed to stop. What are you saying? I asked, needing to hear the words clearly, needing to be sure I wasn't misunderstanding. He took a shaky breath. I'm saying that maybe this accident was the universe's way of forcing me to face something I've been too scared to admit. I'm saying that when I think about who I want in my life, who I trust with all of me, the broken parts and the strong parts, it's always been you. And maybe, his voice dropped even lower, maybe I've been trying to figure out why none of my relationships have ever felt right because I was looking in the wrong direction. Daniel rushed to help his injured best friend Tyler, who couldn't shower on his own. What started as a simple act of friendship became something much more profound when Tyler, vulnerable and honest, began to confess feelings Daniel never expected to hear. The shower water had started to run cooler, but neither of us seemed to notice. I stood there, frozen, searching Tyler's face for any sign that I'd misunderstood, that this was some kind of pain medication-induced confession he'd regret in the morning. Say something, he whispered, vulnerability written across every feature. Please, Dan, I'm kind of dying here. How long? The words came out rough, raw. How long have you felt this way? He closed his eyes, and I watched a droplet of water trace down his cheek like a tear. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe always in some way I wasn't ready to name, but definitely since last spring. Remember when I broke up with Sarah? I nodded. He'd dated her for about 2 months, the longest relationship he'd had in years. She told me I was emotionally unavailable. Said I always seemed like I was somewhere else, with someone else. And she was right. He opened his eyes again, pinning me with his gaze. I was always thinking about you, wondering what you were doing, wanting to share every small moment of my day with you instead of her. And that's when I started to realize that what I felt for you wasn't just friendship. It was everything. My legs felt weak. 3 years. 3 years of hiding my feelings, of carefully maintaining boundaries, of convincing myself that Tyler could never see me that way. And all this time, why didn't you say anything? I asked, my voice breaking slightly. Because I was terrified, he admitted. I'd never felt this way about a guy before. I didn't know if it was just you specifically, or if this meant something bigger about who I am. Either way, I was scared of losing you. You're my best friend, Dan. You're my person. And if I told you how I felt, and you didn't feel the same way, or if you were disgusted, or if it ruined everything between us. He shook his head. I couldn't risk it. So I buried it. Tried to date other people. Tried to convince myself it would pass. And did it? I asked, though I could already see the answer in his eyes. Pass. No, it got worse. Stronger. Every time you smiled at me. Every time you laughed at one of my terrible jokes. Every time you showed up for me without being asked. I fell harder. And tonight, when I called you and you just came, no questions asked, ready to help me with something this intimate and awkward, his voice cracked. I realized I couldn't keep lying to myself. Or to you. Even if you don't feel the same way, even if this makes things weird between us, you deserve to know the truth. The shower was definitely cold now, but I barely felt it. My entire world had narrowed to this moment, to the man standing before me, offering me everything I'd ever wanted and never thought I could have. Tyler, I said slowly, carefully, watching his face, I need you to understand something. For the past 3 years, I have been completely, desperately in love with you. His eyes widened, his lips parting in shock. Every single day, I continued, the words pouring out now that I'd started. I've woken up thinking about you. I've gone to sleep wishing I could tell you how I felt. I've watched you date other people and pretended it didn't tear me apart. I've memorized the way you drink your coffee, the way you run your hand through your hair when you're stressed, the exact shade of brown your eyes turn in sunlight. And I've hated myself for it because you were straight and you were my best friend. And I had no right to feel any of these things, Dan. He breathed my name like a prayer, like an apology, like a revelation. So when you ask if I feel the same way, I said, my voice shaking with emotion, the answer is yes. God, yes. I felt this way for so long, I don't remember what it was like before. You've been the first person I want to talk to every morning and the last person I think about every night. You've been my best friend and my greatest joy and my deepest heartache all at once. We stared at each other, the weight of 3 years of hidden feelings hanging between us. Then, slowly, Tyler lifted his good hand and cupped my cheek, his thumb brushing away a droplet of water, or maybe a tear. I couldn't tell anymore. We've been idiots, he said softly, a smile breaking through the vulnerability on his face. Complete idiots, I agreed, my own smile forming despite the tears I could feel building. Can I kiss you? He asked, and the question was so gentle, so respectful, so perfectly Tyler, that I felt my heart might burst. You're injured, I pointed out, even as I leaned closer. We should probably get you out of this freezing shower first. I've waited 3 years, he said, his forehead coming to rest against mine. I don't want to wait another minute. So I kissed him. Or he kissed me. Or we kissed each other. I'm still not entirely sure who moved first. All I know is that one moment we were separate, and the next his lips were on mine, soft and sure and perfect. Despite the cold water, despite his injuries, despite everything. The kiss was warm and gentle and filled with every unspoken word we'd held back for years. It was nothing like the kisses I'd imagined it. It was better, real, raw. His good hand tangled in my wet hair, pulling me closer, and I was careful of his injured shoulder even as I deepened the kiss. Tasting him, memorizing this moment, this feeling. This perfect collision of everything I'd wanted and everything I'd feared when we finally broke apart. Breathing heavily, Tyler was grinning despite the tears streaming down his face. We really need to get out of this shower, I said. Practical, even in the midst of the most impractical moment of my life. You're going to catch pneumonia. He laughed a real, genuine laugh that I felt vibrate through his chest. Always taking care of me. Someone has to, I said, reaching around him to turn off the water. "You're kind of a disaster. You're a disaster now," he said, and the words felt like a promise. Getting Tyler dried off and dressed was considerably more charged than undressing him had been. Every touch felt electric now, loaded with new meaning. I toweled him dry carefully, taking my time, no longer trying to hide the way I looked at him. And he watched me right back, his eyes dark and full of promise. "Can't believe this is happening," he said as I helped him into a pair of sweatpants and a loose t-shirt that wouldn't aggravate his shoulder. "I keep thinking I'm going to wake up and realize this was just a very vivid painkiller-induced dream. If it is." "We're having the same dream," I replied, guiding his injured arm through the sleeve with infinite care. Once he was dressed, we made our way back to his living room. Tyler settled onto the couch, and I sat beside him closer than I would have before, our thighs touching, my hand finding his. "So what happens now?" he asked softly, his thumb tracing circles on the back of my hand. "Well, for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be here," I said firmly. "Helping you shower, making you meals, making sure you actually rest and heal instead of trying to do everything yourself like you usually do." "I meant after that," he said, a hint of anxiety creeping into his voice. "After I heal? What are we, Dan? What is this?" I turned to face him fully, bringing our joined hands up to rest against my chest. "What do you want it to be?" He thought for a moment, his free hand absently touching his lips where we'd kissed. "I want everything," he admitted. "I want to wake up next to you. I want to kiss you goodnight. I want to hold your hand in public and not pretend it doesn't mean anything. I want to figure out what it means to be in love with another man, and I want to figure it out with you." He paused, vulnerability flickering across his face again. "But I'm also kind of terrified. I've never done this before. I don't know how to be someone's boyfriend, especially not a guy's boyfriend." "What if I'm terrible at it?" "Tyler," I said gently, squeezing his hand. "You've been one of the most important people in my life for 3 years. You already know how to care for me, how to make me laugh, how to be there when I need you. Being boyfriends isn't that different from what we already are. It's just being honest about what we feel. And yeah, it might be scary sometimes, especially navigating this as 2 men in a world that doesn't always understand. But we'll figure it out together." "Together," he repeated, like he was testing out the word. "I like the sound of that." "Me too," I said. And then because I could, because everything had changed, I leaned in and kissed him again. Softer this time, sweeter, a promise rather than a confession. When we pulled apart, Tyler winced slightly, his shoulder clearly bothering him. "Painkillers," I said immediately, standing up. "When did you last take them?" "This morning," he admitted sheepishly. I shook my head, moving to his kitchen, where I knew he kept his medications. "You're supposed to stay on top of these for the first few days." "I was distracted by calling you," he defended, then added with a smile, "and then very distracted by you being here." I returned with his medication and a glass of water, watching to make sure he took them. "You need to take care of yourself," I said seriously. "I know you're used to pushing through pain, but you're not going to heal if you don't rest." "Yes, doctor," he said with a mock salute, then caught my hand as I tried to move away. "Stay, please. We can watch something mindless on TV, you can lecture me about proper injury care, and I can just be with you. For real this time. How could I say no to that?" We settled onto his couch together. Tyler carefully positioned so his shoulder was supported, me tucked against his good side. He put on some nature documentary neither of us really paid attention to, too aware of each other. Too caught up in the newness of being allowed to touch, to be close, to just be. "Can I ask you something?" Tyler said during a segment about migration patterns we were definitely not watching. "Anything, when did you know?" "That you were into guys, I mean. Or was it just me?" I thought about how to answer that. I think I always knew on some level. In high school, I had a girlfriend for a few months because everyone expected it, but it never felt right. Then in college, I dated a guy briefly my freshman year before you and I met. That felt right in a way nothing else had. So I knew I was gay, even if I wasn't really out about it to many people. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, and there was no judgment in the question, just curiosity. "At first I didn't know you well enough. Then later, I was worried about how you'd react. And by the time we were really close, I was already falling for you. So telling you I was gay felt like it would reveal too much, you know? Like you'd see right through me and know how I felt. I told a few people over the years, some friends from other circles, my sister, but yeah, I kept it pretty quiet, especially around you. I'm sorry you felt like you couldn't tell me, he said softly. I want to be someone you can tell anything to, someone you never have to hide from. You are, I assured him. You have been in every way that mattered. I was protecting myself, and maybe protecting you from having to deal with a best friend who was in love with you. He was quiet for a moment, then said, what about me? Do you think I'm gay? Or bi? Or, I don't really know how to label this. I shifted to look at him. I think you're Tyler, and right now, Tyler is into me. Whether that means you're attracted to other men, or whether it's just me specifically, or whether you discover you're bisexual or pansexual or anything else, that's something you'll figure out with time. There's no rush to label it. The important thing is what you feel, not what we call it. He looked relieved. I like that. I like not having to have all the answers right now. You don't, I said firmly. We can take this at whatever pace feels right. The labels, the coming out, telling people about USA, of that can wait until you're ready. What about you? He asked. Are you ready for people to know? I mean, I know this is all new for me, but you've been out to some people. Is it going to be weird dating someone who's still figuring himself out? I considered the question seriously. Honestly, I'm not worried about that. What matters to me is how you treat me, how we are together. If you need time to figure things out before we go public, I understand. But Tyler, I'm not going back in the closet. I'm proud of who I am, and eventually I want to be proud of us too.
Finally.
He said quickly, I'm not asking you to hide. I need a minute to process all of this, you know? To understand what this means for me, for us. We have time, I reassured him, settling back against his side. We have all the time we need. He stayed like that for hours, talking about everything and nothing. He told me about the confusion he'd felt over the past year. The moments when he'd wondered about his feelings, but pushed them away. I told him about the countless times I'd nearly confessed how I felt, always stopping myself at the last second. Do you remember last 4th of July? He asked suddenly. We went to that rooftop party, watched the fireworks? Yeah, I said, remembering the night vividly. We'd stood close together, his arm around my shoulders as we watched the explosions of color in the sky. I almost kissed you that night, he admitted. The fireworks were going off, and you looked so happy, and I wanted to. I told myself it was the beer or the atmosphere or something. But I think I knew even then. My heart ached thinking about all the almost moments, all the missed opportunities. We wasted a lot of time, didn't we? Maybe, he said, pressing a kiss to the top of my head. Or maybe we needed that time to get here. To be ready for this? As the night wore on and Tyler's pain medication began to make him drowsy, I helped him to his bedroom. He asked me to stay, not for anything more than just being there, and I couldn't refuse. We lay together in his bed, me on his uninjured side, his good arm wrapped around me, our legs tangled together. Thank you, he murmured sleepily, his breath warm against my hair. For coming tonight, for helping me, for loving me even when I was too scared to see what was right in front of me. Always, I whispered back, feeling his breathing slow and deep and his sleep claimed him. I lay awake for a while longer, listening to the rain that had started up again outside, feeling the rise and fall of Tyler's chest against my back, marveling at how one day one moment could change absolutely everything. Daniel and Tyler finally confessed their feelings for each other after years of hidden longing. Now, as Tyler recovers from his injury, they must navigate what it means to transform their friendship into something more. I woke up to sunlight streaming through Tyler's bedroom window and the sound of him trying unsexfully to get out of bed without waking me. Need help? I asked, my voice rough with sleep. He looked over at me, his hair adorably disheveled, and smiled. Morning. I was trying not to wake you. How's the shoulder? I asked, sitting up and immediately shifting into caretaker mode. Stiff, he admitted. but better than yesterday, I think. Over the next week, we fell into a routine that felt both strange and natural. I'd come to his apartment every morning before work, help him shower and get dressed, make him breakfast. Then I'd head to my job at the architecture firm downtown, fielding texts from him throughout the day, photos of his lunch, complaints about daytime television, silly memes that made him think of me. After work, I'd return, make us dinner, help him with his evening shower. We'd spend the night talking, watching movies, learning each other in new ways, and kissing. We did a lot of kissing. Every kiss still felt like a revelation. The way he'd pull me close with his good arm. The soft sounds he'd make when I'd thread my fingers through his hair. The way we'd both smile against each other's lips. Like we couldn't quite believe this was real, but we kept things slow otherwise. Tyler was injured, still processing what all of this meant for his identity, and I wasn't in any rush. We had time. On the 5th day, Tyler's mother called for their weekly video chat, and I witnessed him navigate telling her about his injury while carefully avoiding mentioning who was taking care of him. "You should tell her," I said after he'd hung up, noting the guilt on his face. "About us. I mean, when you're ready." He was quiet for a moment, then said, "I want to. I need to understand it myself first, you know? How do I explain this to my parents when I'm still figuring it out?" "You don't have to have all the answers," I reminded him gently. "You can just tell them you're dating someone who makes you happy. Someone who happens to be a man named Daniel. Someone they already know and hopefully already like." Looked at me with such tenderness it made my breath catch. "They do like you. My mom asks about you all the time. She's always said you're good for me." "Well then," I said, kissing his cheek. "When you're ready, the conversation might be easier than you think." The real test came on day 8. When Tyler's friend Marcus called and asked if he wanted to grab lunch. "You should go," I encouraged, even though I'd miss him. "You've been cooped up here for over a week. Get out. See your friends." "Come with me," Tyler said immediately. "Please. I know it's just Marcus, but I want you there." So we went. Marcus met us at a cafe near Tyler's apartment, and I could see his eyes widen slightly when Tyler unconsciously reached for my hand as we sat down. So Marcus said slowly, looking between us with dawning comprehension, "This is new." Tyler looked at me, squeezed my hand, then turned to Marcus. "Yeah, it is. Dan and I, we're together. Like together. I held my breath, waiting for Marcus's reaction. Tyler had known Marcus since high school. His opinion mattered. Marcus was silent for a beat, then broke into a wide grin. "It's about damn time." "What?" Tyler blinked in surprise. "Dude, I've been watching you two dance around each other for years." "The way you talk about him, the way you light up when he texts you, the way you ditched that party last year because Dan had a bad day and needed you." Marcus shook his head, still grinning. "I literally told Soraya, remember? Soraya that you were never going to make it work with her because you were clearly in love with your best friend. I just didn't think you'd ever actually do anything about it." Tyler's face was red, but he was smiling. "Was I really that obvious?" "Painfully," Marcus confirmed, then looked at me. "And you, my friend, have the patience of a saint. I don't know how you stood it." "It wasn't easy," I admitted, relaxing into the conversation, but he was worth waiting for. Marcus raised his coffee cup in a toast. "To finally getting your heads out of your asses? I'm happy for you guys, really." That lunch changed something for Tyler. On the walk home, he was quieter than usual, thoughtful. "What are you thinking about?" I asked as we climbed the stairs to his apartment. "I was so scared of how people would react," he said softly. "I built it up in my head into this huge, turcontinued and 19-amifying thing. But Marcus was just happy for us. Like it was the most natural thing in the world. Most people who care about you will be," I said. "They'll see that you're happy. That's what matters." He stopped on the landing, turning to face me. "I am happy. Happier than I've been in years, maybe ever. And I don't want to hide that anymore." 2 days later, Tyler called his parents. He asked me to be there, sitting beside him on the couch, our hands linked together for support. "Mom, Dad," he said into the phone, his voice steady despite the nervousness in his eyes. "I need to tell you something." I'm dating someone. Someone important to me. Actually, we've been best friends for 3 years, but recently we realized it was more than that. I could hear his mother's excited voice through the speaker, asking questions, making assumptions. It's Daniel, Tyler said, cutting through her speculation. Mom, Dad, I'm dating Dan, and before you say anything, I need you to know that this isn't a phase or confusion or anything like that. I care about him deeply. I might even love him. He looked at me as he said this, and I felt tears prick at my eyes. And I'm happy. Really, truly happy. There was a long pause. Then his father's voice, gruff but gentle. Daniel? The architect. The one who helped you move last year? Yes, Tyler confirmed. Another pause. Then his mother. Tyler, honey, are you? Are you gay? I don't know exactly what I am, Mom, Tyler said honestly. I'm still figuring that out. What I do know is that I have feelings for Dan, and they're real, and I want to be with him. The label. I'm working on that part. His father spoke again. Is he treating you well? Are you happy? Tyler's eyes met mine, full of emotion. He treats me better than anyone ever has. And yes, I'm happy. So happy, and that's what matters, his father said firmly. Bring him home for Thanksgiving. I want to shake the hand of the man who's been hiding in plain sight all this time, making my son smile like that. Tyler let out a shaky breath, relief flooding his features. Really? Really, his mother confirmed, and I could hear the tears in her voice. Tyler, we love you. We just want you to be happy and loved. If Daniel does that for you, and from what we've seen over the years, he clearly does, then we're happy to. After the call ended, Tyler pulled me into his arms, careful of his still healing shoulder, and just held me. I felt wetness on my neck and realized he was crying. They're okay with it, he said, his voice muffled against my shoulder. They're actually okay with it. I told you the people who love you would be, I said softly, my own tears falling freely now. We held each other for a long time, both of us processing the weight that had just lifted. The freedom that came with honesty. The final medical checkup came 2 weeks after the accident. The doctor examined Tyler's shoulder, had him do some careful range of motion exercises, and declared that he was healing well. You can start physical therapy next week, the doctor said. Take it slow, don't overdo it, and you should have full mobility back in another month or 2. And showering? Tyler asked, and I caught the slight smile playing at his lips. You should be able to manage on your own now, the doctor confirmed. Though take it easy, use your other arm as much as possible. In the car on the way back to Tyler's apartment, he was unusually quiet. What's wrong? I asked, glancing over at him. Nothing's wrong, he said quickly. Then, softer. I just realized that you don't have to come over every day anymore. You don't have to take care of me. I pulled into a parking spot and turned to face him fully. Tyler, I never came over because I had to. I came over because I wanted to. Because being with you, taking care of you, making sure you were okay, that's what people do when they love someone. His eyes widened. You love me? I realized what I'd said, but I didn't take it back. Yeah, I said simply. Do. I have for a long time. He unbuckled his seatbelt and leaned across the console, cupping my face with both hands now that he could use them both again. I love you too, he said, the words spilling out like he'd been holding them back. God, Dan, I love you so much it scares me sometimes. We kissed there in the car, in the parking lot of his apartment building, in broad daylight, where anyone could see. And neither of us cared. That night, Tyler insisted on showering by himself, wanting to prove he could do it. I waited in his living room, smiling as I heard him moving around, the water running. The soft curse when he tried to use his shoulder a bit too enthusiastically, when he emerged 20 minutes later, his hair damp and a towel around his waist. He looked proud and vulnerable all at once. I did it, he announced. I knew you could, I said. Standing up to meet him, he crossed the room to me, stopping just inches away. But I think I prefer when you help me. Oh, really? I raised an eyebrow. And why is that? Because it means you're close to me. Because I like your hands in my hair. Because every time you touch me, even just to help me wash my back, it feels like home. He stepped closer, eliminating the space between us. Because I love you, and I want you around even when I don't need you. Especially when I don't need you. I wrapped my arms around him, breathing in the scent of his soap, feeling the warmth of his skin. I'm not going anywhere, I promised. Whether you need help showering or not, I'm here. For as long as you'll have me. Forever then, he said against my lips. I want you forever. We made our way to his bedroom, and for the first time, we didn't have to hold back. No injuries to work around, no fear of crossing lines we couldn't uncross. Just us, finally free to express everything we'd been holding inside for so long. Later, lying tangled together in his bed, Tyler's head on my chest and my fingers running through his hair, he said softly, "You know what's funny?" "What?" "If I hadn't gotten injured, I might never have found the courage to tell you how I felt. I might have kept running from it, kept hiding. This accident, this painful, frustrating injury, ended up being the best thing that could have happened to us." I pressed a kiss to the top of his head. "I'm not glad you got hurt, but I am glad it brought us here." "Me too," he murmured sleepily. "Me too." The gallery opening was crowded with people admiring Tyler's photographs, his first professional exhibition. His shoulder had healed completely, and he'd thrown himself into his art with renewed passion, capturing moments of intimacy and connection between people who loved each other. I stood in front of my favorite piece, a black and white photograph of two silhouettes in a shower, one person's hands in the other's hair, both faces obscured but the intimacy unmistakable. It was titled simply, "The Moment Everything Changed." "That's my favorite too," Tyler said, appearing beside me and sliding his arm around my waist. "It's beautiful," I said, leaning into him. "Though I'm biased, you should be." "You're in it." He kissed my temple, unconcerned with who might see. "That was the first time I touched you like I meant it. Like I wanted to. I had to capture it." Marcus wandered over, a glass of wine in hand. "This whole collection is incredible, man. But I have to ask, is this whole thing just an elaborate excuse to photograph your boyfriend?" Tyler grinned. "Not entirely, but he is my favorite subject." Tyler's parents joined us a moment later, his mother pulling me into a warm hug. "Daniel, we're so proud of him. And we know you're a big part of why he's doing what he loves." "He did this all himself," I said honestly. "I just supported him." "That's exactly what he needed," his father said, shaking my hand firmly. "Someone who sees him, supports him, loves him. Thank you for being that person." As the evening wore on and the gallery began to empty, Tyler and I found ourselves alone in front of that photograph again. "Can you believe it's been 6 months?" he asked, pulling me close. "Some days it feels like yesterday," I admitted. "Other days it feels like we've always been like this." "Like the second one better," he said, turning me to face him. "I like imagining that we've always been us. That I've always been brave enough to love you out loud." "You're brave enough now," I said, standing on my toes to kiss him. "That's what matters." "Don," he said seriously, his eyes searching mine, "I know it's only been 6 months, and maybe it's too soon to say this, but I need you to know you're it for me. You're the person I want to build a life with. Whatever that looks like, wherever that takes us, I want it with you." Tears stung my eyes as I pulled him closer. "You're it for me too. You always have been." We kissed there in the empty gallery, surrounded by photographs of love and connection and all the beautiful ways people found each other. And I thought about that rainy November night when Tyler had called me for help, about how one vulnerable moment had unraveled years of carefully constructed walls, about how sometimes the best things in life come from the moments we least expect. I'd helped my best friend shower, and what happened next had changed everything. It had changed us from two people hiding their hearts to two people brave enough to love each other out loud. It had transformed friendship into romance, fear into courage, almost into always, and I wouldn't change a single moment of it.